Nathan Judah. I'm here with Wolves reporter Mr. Liam Keane. Liam, we've heard from Gary O'Neill ahead of the big game against Brighton, his second pre-match press conference as Wolverhampton Wanderers manager, and again he was in pretty good spirits, I guess. Look, obviously disappointed after Manchester United. Won't go into that too much, but at the same time, I think his main message was that the players have taken a lot of belief in that performance.
Yeah, I think, to be fair to him, he admitted that there's a little bit of concern going into that first game with such a short space of time to work with the team, not knowing quite how they're going to react to both his methods and then equally the in-game response as well at Old Trafford. So I think he was pleasantly surprised with how the team performed and how they reacted and how, I suppose, the fights they showed for both Wolves and for Gary O'Neill. And the belief and confidence they can take from that, I think, is the hope he has now going into the next game, because he admits it's a very tough game, very, very tough game against Brighton at home. It was very complimentary of them in there, and understands that now playing in front of your own fans after a performance like that against United at Old Trafford, you've got an opportunity to build from that. Now, it's not going to be perfect every week, but you've got to try and get some sort of point on the board now and put in a performance that can emulate that at Old Trafford to some extent.
I know he's only been on the training field for a short time, but what you see in training and what you see into a game is sometimes something very different, and I think he will have had a lot of confirmation, positive mainly, I think, rather than negative, on some of the players, the team he picked, and who's going to be with him for the majority of this season.
Yeah, you've got to try and get to know them as people, haven't you, as well as players on the pitch, and there's always going to be different characters in there. Players are going to react differently to your methods and how you are as a person and as a head coach. And I think, again, to the pleasantly surprised scenario, I think he has been quite surprised, or at least pleased, at the very least, with how Wolves and the players have reacted to him. But this comes back to my point that I've mentioned on the podcast quite a few times, and I keep coming back to, because it's really the philosophy and angle that Wolves are going down, or attempting to go down, is players that want to be at the club. And for the vast majority now, Wolves have got a squad that want to play here, that want to play for this club, want to fight for this club. And for any manager, regardless of who it is coming into a club with 3 or 4 days notice before a game, it's the perfect kind of environment and squad to have. So that's helped Gary O'Neill, absolutely, and I would like to think it helps him going into Brighton, because look, it's going to be a very, very tough game.
Absolutely. Look, he said, and he was asked the question about transfers. Of course, there's a couple of weeks now until the deadline. I think it's a week on Friday, September the 1st at 11 o'clock. He's not going to be banging down the door. He's not going to be an Lopetegui like, I want players, but he said, look, we could do with a couple of incomings and there may be a couple of outgoings, but he seems fairly relaxed on the situation. I think what he stressed today and what he stressed last week as well is that centre-back is somewhere where he definitely wants to bring at least one more player in.
Yeah, he was asked about this last week, and his response was something along the lines of, it's difficult for me to answer that, etc, etc. He was actually strong on it today, which I think is an important thing to notice, that he said, look, we are a tad short in some areas. We have got 3 senior centre-backs and then Alfie Pond, a very young lad, very talented but very young and inexperienced lad, backing it up. So he made it very clear that yes, Wolves need a centre-back, but then you're right, he's not in a position really, and also I suppose the top manager he is, to go in now and demand something, because he's come in short notice. It's a big opportunity for him, as well as Wolves trying to push forward, and he'll want a centre-back, of course he will. Whether it happens or not is another thing. So Wolves are in a position now where he said, we'll see, we'll see how things change in the last few weeks of the window, etc, etc. Wolves are looking to try and make additions, but at the moment it's loans. If they can sell Pedence or Johnny, they might be able to add a permanent. It's going to be small fees as well, potentially. So not going to be anything major, but again, I would hedge my bets that Wolves probably make something happen, because I think purely from a footballing point of view, they have to do it.
Yeah, we talk about Pedence and Guedes and Johnny, but one person who I think's been discussed in the media in the last couple of days, and was excellent, of course, on Monday night, was Mario Lemina. A few sources saying that some of the top 6, the big 6 clubs are looking at him, but Gary O'Neill was very, very strong on his future. Yeah,
that was, I think there was a report over in France, wasn't it, about Liverpool being interested. They've been linked a couple of times previously. We know their troubles at the moment with bringing midfielders in, so it's probably also an easy link to make as well. Wolves as a club now are very strong, that they've got a core group of players that they will not leave unless there's a ridiculous offer coming in. So obviously in football that's always a possibility, and Gary O'Neill really backed that up and said, look, he's a core part of this team, he's important, he was brilliant again the other night, and I don't want him to go anywhere. So Wolves are very reluctant to let Lemina, or anyone else for that matter, go anywhere.
Good news is that he said it's a fully fit squad going into Brighton, so that begs the question, Liam, Wolves against Brighton, how does he line up? Do we see the same 11 that lost against Manchester United, or may there be one or two changes, do you think?
What I think he'll do is keep the same 11. What I would do,
oh, here we go.
And I said this on the podcast, is I would bring Fabio Silva in for Sarabia, and I would play him just ahead of Cunha. But whether I can see an argument where that might be too gung-ho, I know you are at home, but Brighton are a very good side, and they're very, very good, particularly on the transition. They nick the ball off you, and they're quick. So I can understand why that might be too gung-ho, but that's what personally what I do. But I do think Gary Neal will keep the same team. And to be fair, the team has warranted another start as well, if we're going to be completely fair to them. They were absolutely superb against United. Sarabia for me was probably the quieter of the starting 11. Yeah. But I think every one of them has warranted another start, so I can see that probably being the case.
Predizione?
I said on the podcast, I'm going to go for it again. 2-1 Wolves.
2-1 Wolves. Wow.
I really hope so.
I'm going to go 1-1, but we'll take a 2-1 victory. Myself and Liam will be at Mall Newton Hall for all the build up on this one. Make sure you log on to expressandstar.com.